Let's talk about the 3 best wide receiver sleepers to target in the upcoming 2024 fantasy football season. Number 1, do not sleep on Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett was nursing a hamstring injury for the second half of the year last year, and he still gutted it out. And he still managed to finish as the WR32, which is pretty impressive all things considered. The thing that excites me about Lockett is the fact that from 2018 to 2022, he's never finished lower than the WR16. He's even had a WR8 and a couple of WR13 finishes. And I think he's going to pick up right where he left off. Even last year, before the injury from weeks 2 through 11, he was the WR17. And if he can avoid injury, I think he'll be back to producing in between that same range. Now, I know a lot of people may be concerned with the change of regime in Seattle, and given Mike Macdonald's pedigree as a defensive coordinator, it wouldn't surprise me to see Seattle run the ball a lot. They still have Kenneth Walker, and they have Zach Charbonnet, whose role should increase this year, but they still have 3 of the best pass catchers in the league. And I do expect Jackson Smith-Njigba's role to grow this year, but Lockett is still a staple of this offense. Obviously, we know DK Metcalf is going to get his, but Tyler Lockett finished with the 24th most targets amongst all pass catchers last year, finishing 1 spot ahead of Travis Kelce. And Geno Smith had the 14th most pass attempts. And even if Smith can't deliver, his backup Sam Howell had the most pass attempts in the league last year. So passing is definitely going to be a part of their game. And given their receiving core, like I mentioned, they're definitely going to have to utilize them. If they want to compete in the NFC West, they're going to have to score points. Currently, Lockett's being drafted at the end of the 11th round as a WR51 in 12-team PPR leagues, and if you can get him there, I think that's an absolute steal in my opinion. I personally am going to be more aggressive and will plan to take him around the 9th round. Next, I want to talk about Tank Dell. Tank Dell was going off last year before his season ended prematurely due to a broken leg. For the life of me, I can't understand why the Texans had a 5'8", 165-pound receiver blocking at the goal line. Hopefully they've learned from their mistakes and they won't put him in that situation again. Currently he's going off the draft board in the 6th round as a WR29, but I would be a bit more aggressive than this. I would take him as early as the beginning of the 5th. Him and CJ Stroud showed a lot of chemistry last year, and I expect that to carry over into this year. I know the Texans brought in Stephon Diggs and re-signed Nico Collins. They also brought in Ben Skowronek and re-signed Noah Brown, but Brown and Collins don't have the best injury history. And I think if Dell can stay healthy, he could have a humongous season this year. From weeks 2 through 13 last year, Dell was the WR13, and had he stayed healthy, I think he would have consistently produced around that level. I mean, aside from Puka Nacua, it could be argued that he was the 2nd best rookie wide receiver. The Texans did also bring in Joe Mixon and Cam Akers, but make no mistake, this team is going to rely on CJ Stroud's arm. Even last year, Stroud finished with the 8th most passing yards despite missing 2 games. He also had the 15th most pass attempts, and I think he just has too much talent to fully commit to a run game at this stage. I do want to mention that the Texans have the 7th hardest schedule, which may hurt or help them. I mean, if they need to chase points, they're definitely going to be throwing the ball a ton. So if you're looking for a good boom-bust receiver to take a chance on, I think Dell is your guy. Rounding out the list is Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk was the WR23 from weeks 1 through 12 last year before going down with a core muscle injury that required surgery. But I think now, given the landscape of that wide receiver room, he has a good chance to be the de facto number 1 right out of the gates. I know the Jaguars drafted Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU, who is definitely no scrub. He led the FBS with 17 receiving touchdowns last year, but he's still a bit raw in my opinion. And they still have Evan Ingram, and they brought in Gabe Davis, but I think the chemistry between him and Trevor Lawrence is definitely something that's going to carry some weight. With Calvin Ridley no longer in the picture, there's going to be a lot of targets that need to go around. And even last year, Kirk finished with a respectable 57, 787, 3 line. And I think he can definitely build off of that. It wouldn't surprise me to see him crack the 1,000-yard mark and get his touchdown total closer to the double-digit mark. The Jaguars have the 14th easiest schedule. Couple that with the fact that Trevor Lawrence had the 8th most pass attempts in the league last year, I think that's a recipe for success. And the Jaguars are out to prove that last year's collapse was just an anomaly and that they are the real deal. I view Kirk as a high upside WR2. He's currently going in the 6th round as a WR31, but I would be a bit more aggressive here too. If you can get him in the 6th round, that's definitely a steal, but I think with his injury last year, he may be falling a bit more than he should. Those are the 3 best wide receiver sleepers for the upcoming 2024 fantasy football season. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and let me know which wide receivers you think are being slept on in the comments below.